It's Friday morning in the fabulous Florida Keys. I'm Gary McAdams with eXp Realty. It looks like somebody did something to anger Mother Nature again. She threw some cold weather and some very heavy winds at us this morning. I went outside a little before 5 a.m. to take my walk along the beach, got a foot and a half out my door, and ran back inside to put on my trusty fleece jacket to keep me warm, and off I went. It was 67 degrees, and that wind was really screaming off the ocean. It was strong wind coming off. It was cool. This is my morning market MLS update video I do every day right about this same time. I report all the new listings in Key West and the lower Keys that have come on the market in the last 24 hours. If you watch this video every day, you'll know about all the new listings from Big Pine Key down to Key West the same day the realtors find out about them. You can also get a much more detailed description of these listings, including photographs, if you follow my blog, keywestinvesting.com. There's a lot more information on the individual homes, a lot more details, any unique feature the home might have, things like room uses, room dimensions. There'll be photos of the inside of the home, photos of the outside of the home. If the home happens to be waterfront, it happens to have a pool, there'll be photos of the water view, photos of the boat dockage if they have it, photos of the pool. Just a lot more information than I can cram into a couple-minute quick YouTube video. Again, that web address is keywestinvesting.com. If you want to stay current with the Florida Keys real estate market and see what's being listed every day at what price, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do a video just like this every morning. While you're looking down at that subscribe button, whether you're newly subscribing or already subscribed, right next to the subscribe button, you'll see the thumbs up symbol. That's the like button. If you could please just take a fraction of a second to click that, that helps my channel grow with the YouTube algorithm and it'll help my channel expand. I'd appreciate it if you just take a little bit and click that button. We have 9 new listings to go over today. Before I tell you about the new listings, though, unfortunately, the state of Florida has one too many lawyers in place, and we have to cover the legal boring stuff. The information I'm about to give you comes directly from the Florida Keys Multiple Listing Service. I'm not accepting any responsibility for any of these listings. I'm not claiming any of these listings to be my own listing, and I'm not accepting any responsibility if there's any inaccuracies in the information I give you. I'm simply reading it to you right from the Florida Keys Multiple Listing Service. The first one we have is a great condo in Old Town of Key West in the neighborhood called the Truman Annex. The Truman Annex is a very desirable neighborhood for several reasons. The two biggest ones are first the rentals. You can rent in the Truman Annex in 7-day intervals, where the majority of Key West is a 30-day minimum rental period by law unless you have the transient license. The second feature of the Truman Annex everyone loves is the location. You can walk to Duval Street to all the restaurants and shops and the nightlife. You can walk to Mallory Square for the world-famous Key West Sunset. The Sunset Festival is one of the very few things in Key West that's still free. You can walk to the new Truman Waterfront Park. You can take a bicycle, or it would be a long walk, but you could walk out to Fort Zachary Taylor State Park, which is, in my opinion, the nicest beach we have in Key West. The Truman Annex is just a great location with all upscale, high-end homes, and you can walk everywhere. You wouldn't need a vehicle at all if you lived in the Truman Annex or vacationed in the Truman Annex. The rental licenses, however, the 7-day rental licenses I just mentioned, when they were issued back when the Truman Annex was developed, they had an umbrella on them, and they're coming up for a revote this year in 2025 on whether or not they're going to renew the licenses. So if you're buying the property solely because you want to use it as a vacation rental and you need that rental income to pay your bills, I would hold off until after the vote. It's my opinion, and I want to be very clear. This is just my opinion. I have no inside information, but personally, I think the licenses are going to be renewed. But considering this property's $2,495,000, I'd rather you wait for the vote than go on my opinion. It's a great property. It's a 2-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 1,350 square foot condo. It's in the Harbor Place unit of the Truman Annex, which was an old Navy building for the officers' housing. It's right on the water. You're overlooking Key West Harbor. You get the best sunset views there are pretty much anywhere in Key West. You can watch the boats go in and out all day long. They have a pool that overlooks the water. You're right across from the Truman Waterfront Park that you can see right from your balcony. This is a great property worth every penny of the $2,495,000. This is an excellent price for a home of this nature. Then also in the Truman Annex, in the smaller condo section, the Shipyard condos, we have a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 646 square foot condo. This one's being offered at $929,000. I won't go into all the details about the Truman Annex again, because if I was going to describe the Truman Annex and the location of this property, I would just be repeating what I said about the one above. It's right in the same neighborhood. It's just a higher end luxury condo versus the smaller lower end condo. But even the lower end condos in the Truman Annex are great properties. Then also in Key West's Old Town neighborhood on Margaret Street, right around the corner of Margaret and Southern Street, which is an excellent part of Margaret Street. That's one of the more high dollar parts of Margaret Street. Is a 1-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 884 square foot house. It's being offered at $895,000, which is a very good price for that location. You're only about a 3-block walk to Duval Street. And when you do get to Duval on Southern Street, you're right about dead center of the street. So if you want to go up to the high-end fine dining restaurants, the art galleries, the shopping, you just make a left. And if you want to go down into the louder nightlife, the bar room section, and enjoy the Key West party scene, you make a right, and it's just a few blocks. You walk only about 4 blocks right down to Sunset Pier, and that's where you can go to Mallory Square for the Key West Sunset Festival. So you can't really beat this location. $895,000 is an excellent price for a home in this location. Then over in Key West's Newtown neighborhood on Seaside North Court, we have a 2-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 1,824 square foot townhouse. These townhouses are very nice. They're 3 floors of living area, which is a total of 4 floors. The first floor is the parking in the garage, and it has an actual true working garage, which is very rare for Key West. A garage that opens and closes, and then there's a nice courtyard, backyard on the other side of the garage. Each one of these condos has their own private elevator. You get out of your car in the garage, you press the button, and you either open up right into your kitchen living room area, or you open up into your bedroom. The condo, the elevator opens right up in the bedroom of your condo, in the master bedroom. These are great properties. They have a nice view of the harbor and the bay. You can watch the boats come in and out. It's being offered at $1,199,000, which is a very low price for a condo of this nature. Usually you see these condos up around $1,300,000, $1,400,000, $1,500,000 for this size model unit. And then some of the bigger models go up in the $1,700,000, $1,800,000 range. So $1,199,000 for this condo is a great buy. Also in Key West's Newtown neighborhood in a condo complex called Santa Clara, we have a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 696 square foot condo. It's being offered at $500,000, which sounds like an excellent price for any property anywhere on the island of Key West. Now the other shoe drops. With Santa Clara, you're going to hear me do something you probably thought you'd never hear any realtor ever do in their career. I'm going to tell you, don't buy this property. Santa Clara was originally built to be a senior citizen home, and the original developer ran out of money halfway through the project. They had the concrete shell up and all the rebar up, and the rebar was exposed, sticking out of the top of the concrete shell. If you're not familiar with the term spalling, it's a very common term in the concrete construction industry. Spalling happens when the rebar inside the concrete rusts. As the rebar rusts, it expands and it breaks out the concrete. Where this shell sat with the rebar exposed to the salt air, and this building's only about 300 yards away from the salt water. The rebar got a lot of salt air on it, and over the years it rusted and broke out the concrete. The spalling on this building was so bad, the city was deciding whether or not they were going to allow it to be repaired or if they were going to condemn it. I'd heard from a city commissioner at the time that the only reason they did not condemn the building was because it is affordable units where a lot of our Key West workforce and labor force lives in the Santa Clara, because they're low priced. And they didn't want to displace over 100 families that were living in Santa Clara, and then they'd have nowhere to live, and that would greatly affect our labor force. Otherwise, they probably would have condemned the building. They say they've repaired the spalling. Each unit got an assessment of over $100,000, some of them closer to $200,000 based on the size. But again, now I'm going on my personal opinion. Spalling that bad is never cured. All it took is for them to miss 1 inch of rust, and rust spreads like cancer. That 1 inch will become 1 foot, will become 1 yard, will become 10 yards, and I just fear the same problem happening over and over again, but that's just my opinion. It is a good price at $500,000 for any property in Key West, but I advise all my buyers stay away. I had one buyer who insisted on buying a unit in there, and I actually added an addendum into the contract and required them to sign it, saying they were buying it against broker's advice. Also in Key West's Newtown, also on Northside Drive, we have a single-family house. This one's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,651 square foot house. I've been in this house quite a bit. A friend of mine used to live there. At the time when she was living there, it was broken up into a duplex, which was non-conforming. Sometimes you'll see out of compliance written down. That's just a fancy way of saying illegal. The house has been sold since that particular owner owned it, and then the person that owner sold it to is now selling it. They may have brought it back into compliance. I haven't been in it since my friend moved out. She moved out when the owner, when she was living there, put it on the market. But at that time, it was an illegal duplex. We'd want to definitely take a look at it. It'd be no big deal to bring it into compliance as a single-family house. You just have to remove one of the kitchens and make it one large 4-bedroom house. It's being offered at $990,000, which is a very good price for a 4-bedroom home, 1,651 square feet anywhere in Key West. But definitely would want to take a look and make sure that it was brought into compliance. So during your due diligence inspection period, you could request the seller puts it into compliance before you close. But otherwise, it's a good price. It's a good house. It's a good location. It's right near several grocery stores, right near a few restaurants. It's a quick ride to the beach, a quick ride downtown. Very close to the main US 1 if you want to go up the Keys, a few islands and explore, or if you want to make a road trip up to the mainland. $990,000 for a house that size is a good buy. Then we go up to Big Carpet Key on Boca Chica Road in the Seaside Resort. Seaside Resort is a mobile home community. Some of them are on the water, some of them are on the canal, some of them are on a dry lot. This particular mobile home is right on the open water with the great view, a beautiful sunrise view. It has the southeast exposure, which you really appreciate in the summer. Our predominant breeze in the summertime comes from the southeast, and even though it may be 90, 95 degrees outside, with that breeze coming off the ocean, you're always cool when you're on or near the water with the southeast exposure. This is a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 816 square foot mobile home, being offered at $499,000. Seaside Resort is a great little community. It may sound expensive, $499,000 for a 1-bedroom mobile home, but they also have a full-service marina in there, fuel dock, bait store. They sell beer and wine, soft drinks, snacks and goodies, fishing tackle, sunblock, everything you need for a day on the water. There's 2 pools, one luxury resort-style pool, one smaller pool. They have 2 24-hour gated security officers, one at the gate to get in the door, and I think it's easier to get into Fort Knox or the White House than it is to get into Seaside Resort unless you can prove you're expected there or you live there. They also have another security guard walking the property or riding around in a golf cart 24 hours a day, just making their presence known. There's a lot of excellent amenities here, and it's only about a 10-minute ride to Key West, and you're right sitting on the open water with a beautiful view. Then on Stock Island on 7th Avenue, we have a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 1,274 square foot townhouse. This particular property is deed restricted for workforce affordable housing. You have to meet the requirements, the buyer has to meet the requirements in order to live here. One of them is you either have to be retired and it has to be your primary residence, or you have to work in Monroe County and live in the unit. There's also some income restrictions of your maximum income. I won't quote that because that changes very regularly, and the way our cost of living has gone up and down and up and down and up and down like a roller coaster after the last few years. I don't know the exact figures right offhand, so I don't want to quote it, but if you were interested in the property, give me a call at 305-731-0501, and I'll call and I'll get that exact figure for you. These are great units. They have two living floors and parking underneath the building. They're all well-kept units. They're set up kind of like a row house situation. Stock Island is very convenient to Key West. You're only about a 5-minute ride into Key West. You're a 5-minute ride to the major grocery stores. There's several nice restaurants right on Stock Island if you didn't want to have to leave the island. There's a very large CVS you could use as your pharmacy, a little convenience store. Stock Island's definitely the up-and-coming community. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have wanted to live on Stock Island. Now Stock Island is very desirable. So this is a great opportunity if you live and work in Key West or anywhere in Monroe County to get an affordable housing unit at a good price. Then the last one we have is probably the best deal we have of the day. It's on Sugarloaf Key in a subdivision called Sugarloaf Shores. Oftentimes you'll heard it referred to as Lower Sugarloaf. There's very few properties under $1 million on the water in Lower Sugarloaf, and actually very few properties under $1.5 million on Lower Sugarloaf. This one's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,265 square foot canal front home on West Starfish Lane. It's being offered at $975,000. Lower Sugarloaf is very desirable. The lots of land are a lot bigger than most of the lower keys. Generally speaking, all the houses are multi-million-dollar high-end houses. The canals in Lower Sugarloaf are much wider than most of the lower keys. So you have about a 75-foot body of water in between you and your neighbor across the canal, where some of the other ones, the canals are 40 and 50 feet wide. And if you're sitting in your backyard and the neighbor across the canal is sitting in their backyard, it kind of feels like you're sitting together. With this one, you've got some distance in between you and the neighbors. The canals are all flow through. They're crystal clear. You'll see people swimming in these canals all the time like it's a pool. It's just a great neighborhood, and it's only about a 15-minute drive to Key West. $975,000 for a canal front house in Sugarloaf Shores is one you definitely want to jump on. This one won't be around long. And that's all we have for today. If you want to take a look at any of these homes or any home anywhere in the Florida Keys, give me a call at 305-731-0501. And don't forget to check out my blog, keywestinvesting.com. I'm Gary McAdams with eXp Realty.